How's it going, everybody? So with Creed 2 coming out this week, that makes for 8 films in this long-running Rocky franchise. I mean, since 1976, we've had our fair share of run-ins with Rocky Balboa over the years. Some are much better than others, but this is the perfect time to rank all of these. All of the Rocky films, Rocky 1 through 5, Balboa, and also the 2 Creed films thrown in as well. So, without further ado, before I get into this list though, let me know in the comment section down below how you'd rank these films. Even if you haven't seen Creed 2, just leave that one out and how you'd rank them, you know, if you've seen all the other films or at least the ones you have seen. You know, it's just my personal list, but I'd like to get your input and what you thought, you know, which one you think are worst and which are the best. But without further ado, let's get right into my number 8. Coming in at number 8, I have Rocky 5, which isn't really a big surprise to anybody if you're a fan of this franchise. I mean, even Stallone himself isn't really the biggest fan of Rocky 5. They tried to recapture the magic, kind of going back to Rocky's roots in this one, and the magic just really wasn't there for me. And also, none of the characters are really likable. Even Rocky himself kind of comes off not as a very likable person in this. Him training Tommy Gunn as the new up-and-coming champion while he's not really fighting in this. I mean, there's no real boxing in this coming from Rocky in a ring, and the final fight is him versus Tommy Gunn in the street, which was a very weird departure since all the other films have had boxing matches, and this is a boxing franchise with some drama sprinkled in, but the drama didn't really work for me either, and it also feels kind of very dated now with like the hip-hop of the early 90s, but I wouldn't say it's like the worst film I've ever seen or anything like that. It's just of this franchise, that's probably the one I like the least. But everything past this, I really enjoy. Coming in at number 7, I have Rocky 2. Now, this had a lot to live up to because the first one was such a critical and financial success, and it ended pretty much perfectly. But for what it was, I'd say it was a solid enough sequel. I mean, the stakes kind of aren't as interesting because Rocky has a little bit of money now, and Apollo's getting a bunch of hate mail now because they thought the fight was fixed and all this, and Rocky's not, he just doesn't seem as driven as he was in the first one because, I mean, he has some money now, he's kind of content, but he's failing with his commercials and at life after boxing because he retired. But once we get to the rematch with Apollo and the training montages in this are really great. But even if all that is great, this probably is the one I least rewatch out of the entire franchise. It's not really a knock on the film itself, it's just there's so many other entries in this franchise that are much more entertaining. Coming in at number 6, I have Rocky 3. Now, this one was kind of tough, especially with a couple other entries coming up after this, because there's only like 1 or 2 things that separate these in my ranking. But this was kind of like the start of the cheese factor. This was like right around the height of Sylvester Stallone's popularity, which kind of shows in this film with Rocky Balboa now being the champion. He's actually kind of talking a little bit more smart now, which was the interesting choice. But the cheese factor is ramped up in this because he fights Mr. T, Clubber Lang, and he also has a weird exhibition match with Hulk Hogan has him as Thunderlips, which both of those in an 80s film, and also Eye the Tiger. This is like ultimate classic cheese. But other than all those factors, I did really like the whole final battle with Clubber Lang, even if it was kind of predictable like a lot of these films are. But I like that they actually went all 15 rounds or so in this. They didn't really do too many crazy montages, although I did love the other montages in this with Apollo and them training on the beach, even if it is kind of interesting looking back at how that looks now. Still a great film, but just a little bit less than some of the others coming up. Coming in at number 5, I have Creed 2. Now, this is the latest installment in the franchise. This was a great follow-up to the original Creed. You know, kind of furthers the story for both Rocky Balboa and Adonis Creed because it's Victor Drago, Ivan Drago's son, versus Adonis Creed, Apollo Creed, obviously, who was killed by Ivan Drago, which is kind of a cool parallel to kind of get the old fans in with the new fans to try and mix them together. I really loved all the pulse-pounding action that you get in this because it's not only from the amazing montages between not only just Adonis Creed but Victor Drago, but just the fights alone in this are pulse-pounding. Like they really brutal, not even just in this Creed, but in the previous Creed. Like, the fight scenes in these are so brutal, they feel so real. Like, you're actually, like, cringing as they're getting punched because it looks so realistic. And this film does not disappoint in that department or in the drama because there's a lot of really good drama in this as well between Adonis Creed and Tessa Thompson's character. I really feel like she's a very underrated part of this cast because obviously the main focus is on Michael B. Jordan and Sylvester Stallone, but Tessa Thompson's kind of like the underrated piece of the cast that makes these films so enjoyable to watch. So definitely recommend checking out Creed 2 when you get a chance since it's the latest film that's coming out this weekend. Coming in at number 4, I have Rocky 4. Now, this is pretty much the height of the absurdity level in this franchise, and I pretty much love it for that factor. It's so absurd, but it rolls with it perfectly. USA versus Soviet Union. It's got a cool butler robot, the kick-ass 80s soundtrack, montage after montage after montage. And Ivan Drago is one of the coolest villains, even though he doesn't really have to say very much. He's just very intimidating. And I mean, he kills Apollo Creed in the ring. So it's got like the 80s action revenge style to it as well. It's just so absurd, but such a blast to watch. And it has one of the most entertaining fights in the entire franchise. It's like the most craziest action as far as boxing goes I've ever seen in a film. And I highly recommend seeing this film. If you, for some reason you haven't seen Rocky IV by now, this is probably one of those entries where you can just pop it in and you don't have to really understand the context of the other films, and it would still be entertaining. Coming in at number 3, I have Rocky Balboa. Now, this one was one I was really skeptical about when it came out because it had been 16 years between this and Rocky V. Because this came out in 2006 and Rocky V was in 1990. So there was a really long gap between these, and it's Sylvester Stallone bringing back the Rocky character even though he's 60 years old. It's just like a odd thing to do, but somehow he pulled it off. This film has a lot of heart, just like the original does, and I really it kind of made me believe that even though he's 60 years old, he can still hang with the main boxers in the league. It was really cool, and they also shot the film like a real pay-per-view fight you'd actually pay for, which was really cool the way they shot it that way, because it made it more realistic. And yeah, I really was not expecting anything out of this at all that I really enjoyed, and I ended up really loving it. And it has some really great motivational quotes that I still think of to this day. And yeah, I really wasn't expecting much out of this, but I was really impressed. Sylvester Stallone really shocked me with this one. Coming in at number 2, I have Creed. In this day and age where we have remakes, spin-offs, reboots, all that stuff for pretty much everything these days, when they said they were going to do a spin-off to the Rocky franchise based around Adonis Creed, I wasn't like that hyped about it. But I have to say, Ryan Coogler did a phenomenal job kind of rejuvenating this franchise and kind of taking it into a new direction. I mean, this was also before a lot of people knew how great of a director he was and a writer, because at this point he'd only done Fruitvale Station, which was very good, but not as well recognized as the films like, such as this, or of course Black Panther afterwards. But he did a really great job, and I really love the chemistry between Michael B. Jordan and Sylvester Stallone, because now in these films, Rocky Balboa is the mentor that he kind of was trying to be in Rocky V with Tommy Gunn. So he kind of knows now, like, what not to do when being a mentor. But, I mean, he's battling with his own demons in this as well, because he's trying to battle cancer. And he does such a phenomenal job in this film that he really deserved a lot more reward recognition for this role. I mean, I love Rocky Balboa, but this is probably one of the best portrayals of him on screen to date. Not only that, but the boxing element as well was done very well in this, very well executed action, whereas like you really felt like the punches were actually connecting and doing damage, and the montages as well were really top-notch in this, and the drama between Adonis Creed and Tessa Thompson's character. I really liked pretty much every aspect of this film, so that's why I was really impressed at how much I like this for it being a spin-off in this franchise, where in this day and age we're getting kind of tired with everything being a spin-off, reboot, or a remake. And coming in at number 1 is the original Rocky, which is not really a surprise. I mean, it probably has the most heart of the entire franchise. I mean, I just really love the humble beginnings of this, with him being like a underdog, and he's taking on Apollo, who's the champ, and all he needs is that one chance to kind of get out of the slums that he's in, and he also has the budding romance with Adrian. And it's just such a humble, sweet film. And obviously there's some boxing, but there's really not a lot of boxing in this movie. It's really more of a drama with some boxing elements, but those boxing elements are very entertaining when they get to them. And you got the classic training montages, which are iconic, like with him running up the steps and all that stuff. And Carl Weathers is a great antagonist, as Apollo Creed is like the cocky, arrogant champ. And he doesn't even win in the end, but it doesn't matter because of like how emotional the ending is for this. It doesn't matter if you win or lose. He put up a great fight, and it's just like the human spirit. It's just the power of the human spirit. It doesn't matter. All he cares about at the end of the match, it's a split decision. Haven't even said the decision yet, but all he cares about is Adrian. It's just like an emotionally packed film that hits you where it hurts, and it's a boxing movie as well, so you get that entertainment added in as well. So that's why it's such a timeless classic. But yeah, that's just my ranking of the Rocky franchise. Like I said, leave a comment in the comment section down below how you'd rank the films. Worst to best. Even if you haven't seen Creed 2, just rank the ones you have seen. I'd love to know how different our lists are. I'd just love to talk about this franchise, everybody, get a discussion going, because this is such a great franchise to talk about with people. There's so many highs and lows in this franchise, and some parts where it gets really ridiculous, and it's just a fun thing to to talk about. So definitely leave, in the comments how you'd rank these films. Also, if you really enjoyed it, feel free to leave a like, hit that subscribe button, keep updated on my movie reviews, trailer reactions, rankings, unboxings, and more. But until next time, I'll see you guys later.